Ancient Roman kitchens contained a world of forgotten smells. We can now reconstruct the powerful aromas that filled these spaces, from pungent fish sauce to wood smoke and exotic spices. This journey uses ancient recipes, archaeological evidence, and modern science to resurrect the scent of history itself. By the end, you will be able to mentally reconstruct the exact aroma of a bustling Roman kitchen. We will uncover the mystery of a sauce so potent it was used like ketchup, and explore why some kitchens smelled of luxurious imports while others carried the scent of simple bread. What does the past truly smell like to you step into the Roman kitchen, and you would find yourself in a world of heat and haze. This room, the culina, was often a small, functional space tucked away from the main living areas. Its heart was the focus, a simple hearth or fireproof counter where most of the cooking happened. Here, a charcoal fire constantly smoldered, heating pots and pans. There were no chimneys to carry the smoke away. Instead, it seeped into the walls, the ceilings, and the clothes of the cook, creating a permanent, smoky perfume that clung to the entire home. Next to the hearth, you might find a klibanis, a portable terracotta oven placed over the embers to bake bread or roast small birds. This intimate, enclosed space meant that every scent, from the fragrant steam of a simmering pot to the acrid bite of burning oil, became trapped and layered over time. The very structure of the room was a sponge for aroma, ensuring that the story of the day's meals was written into the air itself. The air in a Roman kitchen was thick with the scent of burning wood. This was the foundation of every meal, the base note that lingered on clothes and skin long after the cooking was done. An open hearth consumed enormous amounts of fuel, and the choice of wood was not random. Different types created vastly different aromas. Oak, a dense and common fuel, burned with a robust, earthy smoke that could infuse bread with a hearty, almost tannic quality. Olive wood, pruned from the countless groves across the empire, produced a sweeter, more fragrant smoke, carrying hints of the fruit itself that would subtly perfume roasting meats. Beechwood offered a cleaner, milder burn, preferred by some for its less intrusive character. This constant fire did more than just cook food. It seasoned the very walls of the home, embedding the aromatic signature of the local landscape into the plaster and timber. Every bite of stew or piece of bread carried the ghost of that particular fire, a taste of the specific trees that grew nearby. Can you recall the unique smell of a wood fire, how it seems to cling to everything it touches? In a Roman home, that was not a seasonal pleasure. It was the permanent, smoky breath of the household itself, a scent as fundamental to daily life as the air they breathed. But one aroma would cut through even the thickest wood smoke, a scent so potent and pervasive it defined Roman cuisine itself. This was the smell of garum, the fermented fish sauce that sat on every table, in every kitchen, across the entire empire. Think of it as the Roman ketchup, but with a fragrance far more intense and complex than any modern condiment. To make it, Romans layered small fish like anchovies and mackerel with vast quantities of salt in massive vats, then left the mixture to bake in the sun for weeks or even months. The result was a powerful amber-colored liquid, the essence of pure umami. The smell emanating from a freshly opened amphora of garum was a powerful punch of the sea, deeply salty and fishy, but with an underlying richness that was almost meaty. It was the smell of savory depth, a concentrated burst of flavor that could transform a simple pot of lentils or a plate of boiled vegetables. In any kitchen that stored it, this sharp, pungent aroma would have clung to the air, a constant, briny reminder of the empire's vast trade networks and its unshakable love for bold, uncompromising taste. Can you recall a smell that is so strong it seems to season the entire room? That was the everyday reality of garum, the invisible yet unforgettable ingredient in nearly every Roman meal. The process of creating garum was as bold as its final aroma. Huge factories, often located downwind from towns, would fill massive vats with layers of small, oily fish like sardines and anchovies, heaping on mountains of salt. The mixture was then left to ferment under the relentless Mediterranean sun for months. During this time, enzymes from the fish guts and blood would break down the flesh, liquefying everything into a pungent, amber liquid. The smell from these production centers must have been staggering, a potent cloud of decaying fish and salt that announced the factory's presence long before you saw it. This was not a subtle process. It was the raw, unfiltered essence of the sea, concentrated and transformed. Yet from this powerful beginning came a range of sauces for every palate and purse. The highest quality garum, made from just the blood and guts of specific fish like tuna, was a clear, fine liquid known as garum soserum. It was the vintage wine of fish sauces, prized for its complex, savory flavor and commanding a price to match. For everyday use, most people bought liquemen, a more general term for a good, reliable fish sauce that contained the whole fermented fish. There were even cheaper, thicker pastes called muria and alec, the latter being the salty, gritty sludge left at the bottom of the vat. So the sharp, fishy scent wafting from a kitchen amphora could tell you a lot about the family's wealth. Was it the refined, expensive tang of pure garum, or the rougher, more assertive odor of a common liquemen? This single, powerful scent was a direct sniff of social status. Above the smoky foundation and the sharp tang of fish sauce rose the sizzling, savory promise of cooking meat. This was the aroma of celebration and status, a sensory declaration of a household's means. In the grandest Roman homes, the air might be thick with the scent of a whole young pig, its skin crackling over the fire as fat dripped onto the hot coals below. Each sputter of rendered fat released a cloud of rich, meaty perfume, mingling with the smoke from olive or fruitwood logs. The cook would baste the roast with a mixture of garum, wine, and precious herbs like lovage or rue, creating a complex, layered scent. The sharp, almost celery-like aroma of lovage would cut through the richness, while the pungent, bitter note of rue added a distinctly Roman character to the feast. For the wealthiest citizens, the kitchen might also smell of roasting lamb, its gentle gaminess infused with imported spices, or even of plump game birds like thrushes, their small bodies offering a quick, intensely savory burst of scent as they cooked on a portable grill. This was cooking as theater, and the kitchen was the stage from which the most enticing aromas of prosperity drifted through the house. Yet for the vast majority of Romans, the scent of meat was a quieter, more humble affair. Instead of open flames roasting a whole animal, the common kitchen more likely held the steady, simmering scent of a boiling pot. Tough, inexpensive cuts of meat, along with bones and offal, would be placed into a large pot of water with some vegetables and perhaps a handful of lentils. As it cooked for hours, this mixture would release a deep, nourishing, and slightly fatty aroma into the air. It was the smell of patience and economy, a gentle steam carrying the essence of a rich meat stock. The scent was less about the sharp, high notes of herbs and spices, and more about the comforting, fundamental smell of protein and bone transforming into sustenance. The kitchen would be filled with this warm, humid cloud, a scent that promised a filling, if simple, meal. So, the very air in a Roman kitchen told a story of who lived there. Was it the vibrant, complex symphony of a wealthy household's roast, or the steady, humble hum of a common family's stew pot? Each had its own delicious story to tell. Yet beneath the high drama of roasting meat and the pungent cloud of garum lay a quieter, more constant presence. The true foundation of nearly every Roman pot was the humble, aromatic trinity of onions, garlic, and leeks. Before any grand sauce was added or any expensive spice was sprinkled, the Roman cook would begin by reaching for these essential vegetables. The first sharp crack of an onion being chopped would release a familiar, stinging scent, a smell that still makes our eyes water today. This was the signal that cooking had truly begun. Then came the potent, almost aggressive fragrance of crushed garlic, a scent so powerful it could dominate the small, smoky kitchen. And finally, the milder, earthier aroma of sliced leeks would join the chorus, adding a sweet, grassy note as they softened in a pool of olive oil over the fire. Together, these three created the holy trinity of the Roman culinary base, known as the pulmentarium. Their sizzling union in a hot pot was the universal opening act for countless meals, from the simplest farmer's stew to the most elaborate patrician feast. Can you recall the comforting smell of onions and garlic cooking in oil? That foundational aroma is a direct culinary link to a Roman kitchen 2,000 years ago. It was the dependable, everyday scent of nourishment, the workhorse of flavor that built a bridge from the most common fare to the most luxurious dishes, proving that the soul of Roman cooking was often found in its simplest beginnings. Even the most robust stew needed a final lift, a breath of fresh green carried on the air. Within the smoky, pungent kitchen, a different aromatic world thrived in pots and bunches, one of living herbs. Roman cooks wielded a vibrant palette of leafy flavors, each adding its own distinct voice to the culinary chorus. There was the bright, clean fragrance of fresh parsley, chopped and scattered over a finished dish like a gust of spring. Cilantro offered its sharp, citrusy note, a scent that some loved and others, even then, found divisively soapy. Then came the more challenging aromas, the distinctly Roman herbs. Rue released a powerful, bitter perfume, a pungent scent that modern noses might associate with strong medicine. Yet it was a cornerstone of the ancient kitchen for its bold, assertive character. In contrast, mint filled the space with its cool, refreshing breath, used not just in savory sauces, but also to scent the air itself. And lovage, perhaps the most quintessential Roman herb, contributed a deep, celery-like aroma that provided a savory backbone to countless recipes, its scent lingering in the steam from a pot long after the leaves had dissolved. Whether used fresh from a courtyard pot or dried and crumbled from a hanging bundle, these herbs created intricate layers of aroma. The fresh ones brought a volatile, green intensity that faded quickly with heat, while the dried versions offered a more muted, earthy, and concentrated perfume, able to withstand long simmering. Can you smell the difference between the sharp punch of fresh cilantro and the dusty, warm scent of dried oregano? That same sensory contrast filled the Roman kitchen, as cooks expertly layered these green scents to build dishes that were as complex to the nose as they were to the tongue. Beyond the earthy scent of local herbs lay a world of imported perfumes, available only to those with deep pockets and far-reaching connections. In the wealthiest Roman kitchens, the air itself was a testament to the empire's reach, carrying the warm, pungent echoes of distant lands. The most coveted of these was pepper, tiny black spheres that arrived from the coast of India. When a cook ground a handful of these precious berries, they released a sharp, woody aroma with a hint of citrus and an aggressive heat that tickled the back of the nose. This was not just a spice, It was a declaration of wealth, its peppery scent instantly transforming a simple dish into a luxury. Cumin offered a different kind of warmth, its dusty, earthy, and slightly bitter smell instantly recognizable. It added a deep, savory complexity to stews and meats, a scent that felt ancient and grounding. Coriander seeds, crushed before use, contributed a sweet, citrusy, and floral fragrance, a surprisingly delicate note amidst the more robust spices. But perhaps the most legendary scent was that of silphium, a plant so valued it was driven to extinction. Grown only in a narrow strip of North Africa, its resin was worth its weight in silver. Silphium's aroma was described as complex and powerful, a mix of intense celery, garlic, and a savory richness that no modern spice can perfectly replicate. To smell silphium in a kitchen was to smell pure, unobtainable prestige. These imported scents did more than flavor food. They created an aromatic tapestry of power and influence, a fragrant proof that the world, in all its spicy abundance, was being brought right to the Roman hearth. Yet the Roman kitchen was not all savory smoke and sharp fish sauce. It possessed a hidden sweetness, a fragrant counterpoint that drifted from jars of honey and simmering pots of fruit. The most common and cherished sweetener was honey, a golden liquid carrying the very essence of the local landscape. When a cook unsealed a clay pot of honey, the air would fill with a rich, floral perfume. This was not a single, uniform scent. Honey from bees that foraged on thyme bushes had an intense, herbal sweetness, while honey from wildflowers offered a lighter, more complex bouquet. Its aroma was thick and warm, a direct olfactory link to sun-drenched meadows and buzzing hives. But for a deeper, more complex sweetness, Romans turned to defrutum. This was not a simple grape juice. It was fresh grape must, the crushed pulp of the harvest, slowly boiled down in large bronze kettles over a low fire for hours. As it reduced, its scent transformed completely. The initial fresh, fruity burst of grapes evaporated, replaced by a profound, caramelized aroma. The kitchen would fill with the deep, jammy scent of cooked-down fruit, a fragrance with hints of raisins, prunes, and a distinct, pleasant tartness. It was the smell of concentration, of sunshine and patience captured in a thick, syrupy liquid. This reduction process also meant the kitchen sometimes held the faint, scorched scent of a pot watched just a little too closely, a bitter note woven into the sweetness. Can you recall the rich, comforting smell of caramel or simmering fruit preserves? That is the closest modern equivalent to the scent of defrutum, an aroma that promised desserts glazed with its sweetness, or savory meats balanced with its tangy depth. So alongside the sharp and the savory, the Roman kitchen held these warm, sugary breaths, proving that their world of flavor was far more nuanced than we often assume. The earthy scent of boiling legumes was the true perfume of the Roman commoner's kitchen. While the rich enjoyed their spiced meats, the vast majority of the empire relied on a humble, simmering pot for their daily bread. Lentils, chickpeas, and broad beans were the absolute backbone of the Roman diet, providing cheap, filling protein for millions. When tossed into a pot of water and set over the fire, these dried pulses released a quiet, starchy aroma that was the very definition of comfort food. It was not a sharp or aggressive smell, but a gentle, nutty steam that gradually filled the small kitchen. Imagine the soft, almost dusty scent of dried beans as they were poured from a sack, followed by the deep, earthy fragrance that rose as they swelled and softened in the boiling water. This was the smell of patience and survival, a warm cloud that promised a simple, satisfying meal. For hours, the pot would bubble away, the lentils breaking down into a thick, hearty porridge called pulse or a simple stew. The aroma was one of pure nourishment, a blank canvas upon which a family might add a single onion, a clove of garlic, or if they were very lucky, a single splash of pungent fish sauce to give it depth. This was not the complex symphony of a patrician feast, but the steady, reliable hum of a meal that fueled an empire. Can you recall the comforting, simple smell of a pot of beans or lentil soup cooking on the stove? That timeless, earthy essence is a direct link to the daily life of ancient Rome, a scent that fed legions and built the world we know today. A sour, yeasty breath often hung over the Roman kitchen, the signature scent of transformation itself. This was the world of fermentation, a process as vital to daily life as the fire in the hearth. The most beloved of these aromas was the warm, comforting smell of bread. In most city homes, the kitchen lacked a proper oven, so dough was prepared in the smoky culina before being taken to a communal bakery. There, the air would be thick with the intoxicating perfume of yeast, a slightly sweet, bready scent that promised sustenance. As the loaves baked in the massive, wood-fired ovens, that yeasty aroma would deepen, turning into the irresistible, golden smell of perfectly baked crust. This was the smell of community, a shared sensory experience that united entire neighborhoods in the most fundamental way. Can you recall the simple, profound comfort of the smell of baking bread? For a Roman, that scent was the very guarantee of life, a daily miracle of flour, water, and wild yeasts. Alongside the yeasty perfume of bread came the sharper, more complex aroma of cheese. Roman cheesemakers were skilled artisans, producing everything from fresh, soft ricotta-like cheeses to hard, aged varieties meant for long storage. A fresh cheese, still dripping with whey, would have offered a mild, milky, and slightly tangy scent, not unlike a modern farmer's cheese. But it was the aged cheeses that truly announced their presence. These wheels, often smoked or heavily salted to preserve them, developed a pungent, earthy character. In a kitchen storage nook, such a cheese would release a bold, lactic fragrance, a sharp tang that could cut through the room's smokier notes. This was the smell of patience and preservation, the result of months or years of careful aging. Whether grated over a dish of pasta or eaten with bread, the sharp scent of aged cheese added a layer of savory complexity to the Roman palate, a testament to their skill in turning simple milk into a lasting, flavorful treasure. And then there was Pascha, the people's drink. This was not a fine wine sipped from glass goblets, but a practical, thirst-quenching beverage made from vinegar, water, and herbs. The sharp, acidic smell of Pascha was unmistakable. Imagine the bracing scent of wine vinegar, not hidden in a dressing but openly mixed with water, creating a sour, tart aroma that was both refreshing and medicinal. Soldiers on the march drank it, laborers in the fields relied on it, and it was a common sight in the cheapest taverns. The vinegary tang of a freshly mixed cup of Pascha would have been a familiar note in any common kitchen or marketplace stall, often cut with the scent of fresh mint or other herbs to make it more palatable. This sour smell was the scent of resilience, a humble, acidic brew that quenched thirst and, the Romans believed, warded off illness. It was a far cry from the sweet smell of honeyed wine, but its sharp, clean character was just as vital, a pungent reminder that the Roman world was built not just on luxury, but on the practical, sour staples of everyday life. The scent of bread began long before the oven, in the gritty cloud of the mill. When a Roman baker poured grain into the hollowed stone of a hand mill, the air filled with a dry, earthy perfume. The crushing and grinding of wheat or barley released this fundamental aroma, the smell of raw flour and broken husks, a dusty scent that coated the throat and settled on every surface. This was the first note in the symphony of bread, the scent of potential itself. From that flour, mixed with water, came the true magic. Most Roman bread was leavened with a sourdough starter, a living culture kept alive from one batch to the next. When the baker opened the jar holding this fermenting paste, a sharp, yeasty, and slightly alcoholic tang would punch through the floury air. It was the smell of life and activity, a bubbly, sour fragrance that promised the loaf would rise. As the dough was kneaded and left to rest, this aroma would mature, filling the small kitchen with its warm, expectant breath. Then came the final, transformative stage. For most city dwellers, the shaped loaves were carried to a communal bakery. Stepping into that space was to be enveloped by an irresistible wall of heat and scent. The yeasty perfume of countless proving loaves mingled with the woody smoke from the massive oven. But the pinnacle was the moment the baking began. As the raw dough met the searing heat of the brick-lined oven, its scent transformed completely. The sharp sourness of the starter mellowed, giving way to that golden, universally comforting aroma of baking bread. The crust caramelized, releasing a toasty, nutty fragrance that was pure nourishment. This was not just a smell you noticed. It was a smell you felt, a warm, yeasty embrace that promised a full stomach and a satisfied home. Can you think of a scent more deeply tied to human survival and comfort than that of bread baking in a fire? For a Roman, that smell was the very heartbeat of the city, a daily, fragrant miracle rising from 1,000 neighborhood ovens. No kitchen aroma was more fundamentally Roman than the sharp, peppery scent of freshly pressed olive oil. This was the lifeblood of their cooking, a fragrant gold that flowed from countless amphorae. When a cook first unsealed a vessel of new oil, the air would fill with a vibrant, grassy perfume, a scent that carried the very essence of the sun-drenched grove. High-quality oil had a distinct peppery kick at the back of the throat, a sensation that was as much a part of its aroma as its flavor. This was the smell of quality and prosperity, used for everything from dressing delicate lettuces to frying fish in a sizzling pan. In a wealthy kitchen, the scent of this fine oil would have been a constant, elegant presence. But even in the poorest homes, a cheaper, more robust oil provided its own distinctive smell. This oil, often pressed from riper olives or from the second pressing, had a heavier, more pungent character. When it hit a hot pan, it released a deeper, earthier aroma, a familiar workhorse scent that formed the base of countless simple meals. The very air in a Roman kitchen, therefore, was layered with the story of the olive, from the bright, expensive top notes of a fine, unfiltered oil to the steady, smoky hum of a practical cooking fat. And sitting beside the oil amphora was another olive story, contained in a simple jar. Preserved olives themselves were a constant presence, a staple snack and cooking ingredient. Opening that jar released a powerful, briny cloud. The smell was salty and fermented, with a sharp, vinegary tang from the brine and a deep, fruity bitterness from the olives themselves. It was the smell of preservation and patience, a pungent, salty counterpoint to the oil's grassy elegance. Together, the fresh oil and the brined fruit created an aromatic partnership that defined the Roman palate, a constant reminder that the humble olive tree was, in many ways, the true root of the empire. Amidst the savory layers of smoke and fish, a sweet counterpoint often bloomed. The Roman kitchen knew the lush, honeyed scent of fresh figs, their soft skins almost bursting with a jammy perfume that promised pure sweetness. Baskets of dates contributed a deeper, caramel-like richness, a sticky, sugary aroma that clung to the air. But these fruits were fleeting, their perfect ripeness a race against time. To capture that summer sweetness for the winter months, the kitchen transformed into a small-scale preservation laboratory. The most common method was simple drying. Figs and dates would be sliced and laid out in the sun, their concentrated sugars releasing a warm, intensely fruity fragrance as they slowly shriveled. This was the smell of patience, a slow transformation from juicy fruit to chewy, sugary morsel. For a more luxurious preservation, nothing compared to honey. Plums, apples, and pears might be submerged entirely in clay pots filled with the golden liquid. The process created a magnificent layered aroma. The sharp, fresh tang of the fruit itself would slowly meld with the thick, floral sweetness of the honey, creating a new, complex scent that was both fruity and profoundly rich. Opening one of these storage jars weeks later would release a perfumed cloud, the smell of preserved sunshine. Even the simple act of storing fresh apples in a cool, dark corner added its own quiet note. As a basket of apples aged, it gave off a faint, winey scent, a gentle fermentation that spoke of sugars slowly turning. Can you recall the distinct smell of an overripe pear? That same soft, almost fermented sweetness would have been a familiar, if subtle, note in a Roman larder. So while the kitchen was dominated by bold, savory players, these fruity aromas provided a crucial, fragrant balance, a sweet whisper of the orchard amidst the hearth's smoky roar. Another golden thread in the Roman kitchen's tapestry of smells was the complex aroma of the vineyard's gifts. Wine was not just a drink, it was a fundamental cooking ingredient, and its presence was announced long before a cup was poured. When a cook uncorked an amphora of a young, everyday wine, the air would fill with a fruity, slightly alcoholic perfume, a scent of fresh grapes with a sharp, tangy edge. This was the smell of immediacy, a wine meant to be consumed quickly or used to deglaze a pan, its aroma adding a bright, acidic note to sizzling meats and vegetables. But the scent of wine in a Roman home was often more complex and evolving. Stored in porous clay amphorae, even the best wines were constantly breathing, slowly oxidizing. A wine that had been open for a few days would develop a deeper, almost nutty character, its fruity top notes fading into a more muted, sherry-like aroma. This was the natural progression, the scent of time passing in a clay jar. For the wealthy, the kitchen might hold the profound, oaky perfume of a fine Falernian wine, aged for decades, and valued for its rich, almost caramelized depth. Yet from this very process of oxidation came another, even more powerful kitchen staple. When wine turned completely, it became acidum vinegar. The sharp, acidic punch of Roman vinegar was a scent of striking clarity. It was not a failed wine, but a deliberately cultivated product, essential for both preserving and cooking. Its clean, piercing aroma could cut through the kitchen's heavier layers of smoke and fish, a wake-up call for the senses. Cooks used it to create sharp sauces and marinades, and it was the key component in pickling everything from vegetables to fish, its acidic tang acting as a natural barrier against spoilage. So the Roman kitchen held the entire life cycle of the grape, from the bright promise of new wine to the sharp, practical certainty of vinegar, each stage contributing its own distinct note to the symphony of scents. A gentle, milky sweetness could sometimes soften the kitchen's sharper edges. While the Romans did not drink much fresh milk, as it spoiled quickly, they used it to create simple, comforting dishes. The milk itself, usually from goats or sheep, had a distinct grassy aroma, richer and more pungent than modern cow's milk. When gently warmed in a pot over the fire, that scent would bloom, filling the air with a soft, creamy steam. This was the foundation for a classic Roman dish called a patina, a baked custard that was the ancient ancestor of our modern frittata or quiche. To make it, a cook would beat fresh eggs into that warm milk. The moment the eggs were cracked open, they released their own familiar sulfurous note, a smell that announced protein and richness. As the cook whisked, the two scents would marry, the eggs' pungency mellowed by the milk's gentle fat. Pouring this mixture into a shallow earthenware dish, they might add a sprinkle of pepper or a handful of chopped herbs before placing it in the hot embers of the hearth to set. As it baked, the aroma transformed completely. The sharp, raw scent of egg faded, replaced by a golden, savory fragrance. The custard would puff up slightly, its surface browning, releasing a toasty, nourishing perfume that was both simple and deeply satisfying. Can you recall the warm, comforting smell of scrambled eggs or a baked custard? That exact same homely scent would have wafted from a Roman patina, a humble yet elegant dish that proved even the most basic ingredients could create a small, fragrant miracle. While the sharp tang of garum defined the pantry, the scent of the fish itself was a daily drama in Roman markets and kitchens. For those living near the coast, the morning air could be thick with the crisp, briny perfume of the ocean's latest catch. Imagine the powerful aroma of a basket of just landed mackerel, their silvery skins gleaming and their gills still holding the cold, metallic scent of the deep sea. This was a fresh, clean smell, bursting with life, though it carried a distinct fishiness that would grow stronger as the day wore on and the sun beat down upon the scales. For a brief moment, this was the smell of pure potential, of a fish that might be grilled simply over coals and eaten with nothing but a squeeze of lemon and a drizzle of oil. But this fresh, oceanic breath was a fragile luxury. Without ice or rapid transport, it would soon turn into the heavy, unpleasant odor of spoilage, a race against time that every cook knew well. This urgency gave rise to another, far more aggressive scent that clung to kitchens and workshops across the empire, even those far from the shore. This was the smell of preservation. To save the bounty of the sea for the winter months or for a journey inland, Romans relied on salt and smoke. The process of salting fish was not a gentle one. Workers would split open the fish, pile them high, and bury them in mountains of coarse sea salt. The air around these salting vats was staggering, a concentrated punch of salt and decomposing marine life so potent it could make your eyes water. It was the smell of the sea in its most brutal, unforgiving form, a harsh, salty, and profoundly fishy odor that announced its presence for miles. In a smaller kitchen, salting a single batch of fish for the household would have released a similar, though less overwhelming, version of this pungent cloud. And then there was smoking. Hanging fish over a slow, smoldering fire of specific woods transformed their aroma once more. The initial scent of raw fish would be slowly conquered by the woody perfume of the smoke. The fish would take on a golden hue and a completely new fragrance, a savory, smoky, and slightly sweet aroma that masked the fishiness beneath a comforting blanket of hearth and preservation. Can you recall the distinct difference between the smell of fresh fish on ice and the rich, smoky scent of kippers or smoked salmon? That same sensory contrast existed in Rome. So the air in a Roman kitchen told a story of distance and time, from the bright, briny promise of a fresh catch to the intense, salty punch of preservation, a fragrant map of how the empire wrestled with the sea's fleeting gifts. That sharp, smoky perfume of preservation clung not just to fish, but to the very meat that sustained legions and households through long winters. In the Roman smokehouse, a constant smoldering fire of green wood or sawdust created a dense, heavy haze. This was not the quick, hot fire for roasting, but a slow, cool burn designed to saturate the air with its essence. Hanging within this chamber were sides of pork, legs of mutton, and whole geese, slowly transforming under the smoke's persistent embrace. The initial scent was intensely woody, a thick cloud that smelled of the forest itself. As the hours turned into days, that smoke began to penetrate the meat, and the aroma evolved. The raw, bloody smell of the fresh meat was conquered, replaced by a deep, savory, almost sweet fragrance. The fat would slowly render and then harden again, its surface taking on a glossy, amber hue and a profoundly rich, smoky scent. To step into this space was to be enveloped by the smell of patience and security, the aroma of food that would not spoil, of feasts saved for leaner times. It was a heavy, clinging scent that would have permeated the clothes and hair of the workers, a badge of their vital trade. Can you recall the deep, comforting scent of a true smokehouse, a smell so potent it feels like a flavor itself? That was the perfume of Roman preparedness, a fragrant promise of meals to come, long after the butchering was done. Alongside the smoke, there was another, simpler method that filled storage rooms with its own assertive character. Meat destined for long journeys, especially for the military, was often packed in salt. The process was brutally effective. Large cuts were buried in coarse sea salt or packed into jars layered with the crystals. The smell here was less complex but just as powerful. It was the sharp, clean, almost metallic tang of pure salt, so concentrated it dried the air and stung the nostrils. Over time, this scent would mingle with the natural juices of the meat, creating a pungent, salty brine. This was not the inviting aroma of a roasting joint, but the functional, uncompromising smell of survival. It was a scent that spoke of necessity, of rations carried across deserts and mountains, its very pungency a guarantee against hunger. Whether from the slow, aromatic alchemy of the smokehouse or the harsh, preserving embrace of the salt jar, the smell of cured meat was a constant, lingering reminder that in the Roman world, securing tomorrow's meal was a daily, fragrant battle. Beneath the rich tapestry of cooking smells lay an unavoidable, less pleasant truth. The Roman kitchen was a hub of constant activity, and with that came the steady accumulation of waste. Food scraps, vegetable peelings, and fish bones were not simply tossed into a sealed bin. They were often discarded into open pits, piled into midden heaps just outside the door, or fed to scavenging animals. On a warm day, the air near a kitchen would carry the faint, sweetly sour scent of decaying organic matter. It was the smell of rot, a background note of fermentation that mingled uneasily with the aromas of the next meal being prepared. This was not the controlled decay of garum production, but the simple, messy reality of life without refrigeration or plastic bags. Flies would have been a constant presence, their buzzing a soundtrack to this underlying odor of disposal. And then there was the matter of human waste. In many Roman homes, chamber pots were a common convenience, and their contents had to be disposed of daily. While sophisticated sewer systems existed in large cities, the act of carrying a full pot through the house, or emptying it into a nearby cesspit or public latrine, would have left a potent ammoniacal trail. This sharp, acrid smell of urine, often used in fulling shops to clean cloth, was another layer in the complex urban atmosphere. It was a scent that spoke of a world where the boundaries between cleanliness and waste were far more permeable than our own. Can you recall the faint, unpleasant odor of an overfull trash can on a hot day? Now amplify that. and let it linger as a constant, low-level companion to the sense of sizzling oil and baking bread. This was the full, unvarnished sensory experience of the Roman kitchen, a place where the vibrant perfume of life was forever intertwined with the grittier smells of its byproducts. The air in a wealthy domus on the eve of a cena was a battlefield of competing perfumes. This was the kitchen at its most chaotic and glorious, a place where the separate threads of everyday scents wove together into an overwhelming tapestry of anticipation. The sharp tang of garum from a simmering meat sauce clashed with the peppery scent of fine olive oil being drizzled over a salad of fresh herbs. From one corner rose the deep, savory cloud of a wild boar roasting on a spit, its skin basted with honey and cumin, while from another came the delicate, sweet fragrance of honeyed wine reducing for a glaze. The portable clay oven, the clibanis, emitted the warm, comforting breath of bread baking beside smaller pastries stuffed with cheese and pepper. Servants moved through this aromatic storm, their own scent of clean linen and sweat adding a human note to the melange. Each breath was a complex recipe in itself, a layered experience of smoke, sweetness, savor, and spice. Can you recall a holiday kitchen, when every burner is in use and the air is so thick with promise you can almost taste the feast? That overwhelming, joyous sensory overload was the deliberate goal of a Roman host, a fragrant demonstration of their wealth and generosity, designed to welcome guests with an intoxicating preview of the luxuries to come. A world of public aroma awaited just beyond the private kitchen door. Step into any Roman city neighborhood around the noon hour, and your nose would lead you straight to the nearest thermopolium. These were the ancient Roman fast food counters, and their scents were an open invitation to the hungry and the hurried. The air outside these shops was a thick, savory stew of its own. From large clay pots called dolia embedded in the counter, the rich, meaty steam of a slow-cooked stew would billow out. This was not the delicate scent of a patrician's roast, but the hearty, rib-sticking perfume of a boiling pot filled with chickpeas, lentils, and whatever cheap, tough cuts of meat were available, all simmered for hours into a thick, comforting gruel. This earthy, beany cloud was the base note, but cutting sharply through it was the irresistible sizzle of sausages. Skewers of lukaniki, a spiced pork sausage, would crackle and spit over a small grill, releasing a peppery, fatty, and deeply savory aroma in the street. The smell of garlic and cumin from the sausage seasoning mixed with the wood smoke from the fire, creating a fragrance designed to pull in every passing laborer. And to wash it all down, there was the warm, spiced scent of mulled wine. A large kettle of cheap wine would be heated with honey and spices like pepper and saffron, its sweet, alcoholic steam cutting through the savory heaviness and adding a final, festive note to the mix. This was the smell of convenience and community, a public promise of a hot, affordable meal that required no cooking at home. Can you recall the way the smell from a food truck or a street vendor can stop you in your tracks? That exact same magnetic pull existed 2,000 years ago, drawing Romans to a bustling thermopolium for a taste of the city's vibrant public soul. That smoky, fish-scented kitchen was not a universal reality across the empire. From the sunny shores of the Mediterranean to the misty forests of Britannia, the scents of Roman cooking were shaped by the land itself. On the coast of Italy or in the province of Hispania, the kitchen's perfume was dominated by the familiar trinity of olive oil, garum, and wine. The air was a vibrant mix of peppery green oil sizzling in a pan, the sharp tang of fermented fish sauce, and the fruity acidity of local wine reducing in a stew. This was the classic Roman aroma, a scent born of the sun-drenched sea and the olive grove, but travel north to a military outpost along the Rhine frontier, and the kitchen story began to change. Here, the olive tree could not grow, and the Mediterranean sun felt like a distant memory. In its place, the air carried a heavier, earthier character. The sharp scent of garum was still present, imported at great cost for the legionaries, but it now mingled with something entirely different. The foundation fat was not olive oil, but butter and animal lard. Imagine the rich, creamy, and slightly sour smell of butter clarifying in a pot over the fire, a scent utterly foreign to a cook from Rome. And then there was the grain. Instead of the fine wheat for bread, the staple was often barley or oats, boiled into thick porridges that released a hearty, nutty steam into the air. Venturing even further, to the damp, cool province of Britannia, the Roman kitchen transformed almost completely. The sharp, acidic note of wine was often replaced by the sweet, grainy aroma of fermented cereals. This was the smell of native beer, a thick, hearty brew simmering in a cauldron or being drunk from a wooden cup. Its malty, slightly sour fragrance would have been a constant presence, the local answer to the vineyards of the south. The Roman soldiers and settlers stationed there adapted, their own culinary traditions slowly blending with those of the land they occupied. The scent of a kitchen in Roman London was a unique hybrid. You might still catch the pungent whiff of military-issue garum from a nearby army barracks, but it would be layered over the profound, comforting smell of a barley stew, enriched with local bacon and a generous scoop of butter. So, to follow your nose across the Roman Empire was to trace a map of climate and culture. Was the air sharp with the sea and the olive, or was it rich with the earthy breath of grain and the dairy fat of northern pastures? The answer revealed not just what was for dinner, but exactly where in that vast, sprawling world you stood. We can actually recreate these ancient aromas today, thanks to a remarkable book that survived the fall of the empire itself. A collection of recipes attributed to a gourmet named Apicius offers us a direct sensory line back to the Roman kitchen. Modern chefs and historians have followed these instructions, cooking dishes that have not been prepared for over 1,000 years. The process is a form of culinary time travel. As the ingredients hit the pot, the same chemical reactions occur, releasing the same volatile scent molecules that once drifted through a Pompeian culina. A recipe for boiled ostrich with pepper, mint, and celery seed fills a modern kitchen with a bizarre yet familiar fragrance, the sharp heat of pepper mingling with the cool breath of mint in a way that is both alien and strangely logical. Another dish, a sweet and savory patina of pears and meat, simmered in wine and flavored with cumin, creates a scent profile that would baffle a modern diner, yet it was clearly a delight to the Roman palate. Cooking from Apicius is not just reading a recipe. It is an act of sensory resurrection, proving that smell is one of our most powerful and most overlooked links to the past. But you do not need a 2-year-old cookbook to experience a ghost of Rome's most famous flavor. That pungent, savory scent of garum never truly disappeared. It simply evolved, traveling across continents and centuries to find a new home in a familiar brown bottle. The story of Worcestershire sauce is the story of garum's second life. In the 19th century, English chemists attempting to recreate an Indian sauce stumbled upon a familiar process. They took anchovies, salted them, and allowed them to ferment in barrels for months, creating a potent, umami-rich liquid. The addition of tamarind, vinegar, and spices created a new, complex profile. But at its heart, the fundamental aroma is a direct descendant of the Roman fish sauce. Open a bottle of Worcestershire sauce, and take a cautious sniff. That initial, sharp, deeply savory punch is a close cousin to the garum that once seasoned every Roman pot. It is the same basic alchemy of fish, salt, and thyme, a culinary idea so powerful it outlasted its creators. So the next time you smell that savory steam rising from a simmering stew, or catch the sharp, fermented tang from a condiment bottle, remember that you are breathing in an echo of history, a scent that has seasoned the human story for millennia. This invisible tapestry of scent, woven from wood smoke and fermented fish, sweet honey and sharp vinegar, was the true atmosphere of Roman life. Every meal began with the earthy foundation of chopped onions and garlic sizzling in peppery olive oil. The sharp, briny punch of garum then rose to meet it, followed by the green breath of fresh herbs like parsley and pungent rue. Over it all hung the constant, comforting perfume of baking bread and the deep, savory promise of a stew simmering for hours. These were not separate smells, but a single, complex symphony, a fragrant story of trade, status, and survival. These ancient kitchens breathed an aroma of bustling commerce and quiet domesticity all at once. So the next time you stand in your own kitchen, with the scent of sautéing garlic filling the air, pause for a moment, close your eyes, and listen with your nose. Let the sharp tang of Worcestershire sauce from your pantry remind you of a Roman amphora. Let the smell of a wood-fired pizza or baking bread carry you to a Pompeian bakery. Let the spices in your cabinet whisper of camel caravans and distant shores. For a fleeting instant, you can cross 2,000 years and breathe in the very same air. The Roman world may be dust and ruins, but its scent still lingers, waiting for you to remember.